got the distribution, you got the placement, you did everything right. And somewhere between the purchase order and the shelf, something went sideways. Your product isn't there, or it's there, but it's wrong. Or nobody can tell you either way. Every CPG brand hits this wall. Most of them hit it more than once. I'm Jordan Karcher, founder and CEO of Eiley. Know Thy Shelf is a show for founders and CPG superstars who are done taking anyone's word for what's happening at the shelf. Real stories, real data, one question underneath all of it. Your product is listed as in stock. Is it though? Stephen, great to have you. Thank you so much for coming on Know Thy Shelf. Gratsi has really taken off, truly exploded, and it's a testament to your understanding of consumer psychology. You started in commercial banking and then moved into the logistics space, building a pretty significant and profitable service. And then somehow found yourself in the wine industry. I'd love you to take us back in time and just walk us through how did you end up with Gratsi today, and what were all the entrepreneurial journeys along the way?
I was kind of led to the wine industry from my previous business, which was a software logistics moving company called Bellhops. And I was in my 20s. It was a very complicated, stressful, and intense job that I had I ran the company for about 7 years, and we grew it to about 15 million in revenue, had servicing a bunch of cities across the country. And I learned a ton from it, but, I had a moment where I realized that, if I'm going to put that much work into something, I need to at least be, kind of passionate about it or having fun in the process, if it takes up so much of your time. And, I really kind of fell in love with wine during my time at my previous job, where it was really the only thing that worked for me to calm down when I got home late from the office, to kind of turn off my brain and, disassociate a bit. And someone who's always loved brands, I felt like I didn't really have a home with wine, and there wasn't a brand I was super loyal to, and I felt like the wine industry didn't do as good of a job of creating brands as like the whiskey and beer and spirits and tequila side. So I took some time off after I left the company and spent a lot of time in Southern Europe, which is where some of my family's from, and from Sicily and Greece, and was really blown away at their relationship with wine in Southern Europe. And I loved the pace of life. It was such a reset for me from, the previous decade where, was just kind of getting in the office first thing in the morning and leaving when the sun was going down. And I fell in love with their kind of nonchalant relationship with wine, which was, they don't tell you much about it because you just assume that it comes from a farm down the street and they sell it to you by the liter. They don't tell you anything about it. They say, do you want red or white? And they give it to you in a big carafe. And I kind of had a light bulb moment I really wanted to capture that whole feeling that I got when I was there and use that as like the speck of DNA that I wanted to use to build our brand in the US. So that was kind of the origin, was, just kind of extrapolate the DNA of the Southern Mediterranean lifestyle, which is very slow, high quality ingredients, simplicity. Yeah. And just kind of a slower pace and really enjoying the small things in life. So I felt like it was something that the American consumer could relate to. So that was what brought me to it.
And I think it's a really good point. It's difficult though to translate an ethos or a lifestyle into a product. So how did you do that from the idea of I like this feel, I like what I'm experiencing, but I want to put it into a brand? How did the Gratsi brand install?
Yeah, I think I learned quickly that I wasn't really great at doing anything. I do feel like I have a decent eye, but I feel like a key hire that I made was actually hired. I was following this guy on Instagram. His handle was La Via Mediterranea, and he lived on a sailboat in the Mediterranean Sea, and he never really showed his face, but he would just travel around the Mediterranean, and he'd eat dinner on his little boat, and he'd go to these little towns. And I followed him, and then I reached out to him. I DM'd him on Instagram and said, hey, I'm starting this brand. I really need help articulating, this lifestyle, and you seem to live it. Do you want to come on and help me? He started just curating content for us. And slowly, that was 2021. And slowly over time, his name's Achilles, which is fitting. He lives in Athens, Greece. And he really helped me articulate what I was trying to do and kind of build the brand around this ethos, because it wasn't something that he saw from afar. It was something that he actually lived. So while I loved it, I didn't really know how to explain what I wanted. So bringing him on was huge. And then we've had really a collection of people join the business, even on the logistics side. A hire we made named Tanner, who worked with me at my previous company. We all kind of have this central dream of disappearing into the this Southern Europe and just buying a farm and kind of not having internet and living off the grid. So we kind of have like a collective passion for this lifestyle. So that really helps, is if the people in the company, align with what we're trying to articulate.
No, I believe it. It definitely has the authenticity. I think it was really smart. Go so easy to make almost a caricature of what you think it is.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great approach, is like find the person who's living that way, not what you think that is.
Yeah. And it was super lucky that he was, he's essentially our head of marketing. We have, enormous spends, and I got very lucky that he's creative and artistic, but also extremely talented in regards to budgets and ad spend and creative and management. It was a very lucky happenstance that we connected. And I've seen him grow from, a 22-year-old or 24-year-old, Instagram content creator into really a full-fledged CMO that has done an incredible job and just learned along the way. He went to school for engineering in Greece, like doesn't have any background, all self-taught. So just very lucky that I think hopefully maybe even attracted people to the business that, kind of see what we're doing and want to help. But
He's still living on a sailboat?
no, he's upgraded. Now he's got a girlfriend, and I don't know if that little one person sailboat was good enough. So he's got a nice apartment in Athens that overlooks the Piraeus port, which is funny because every time I talk to him, he's sitting on like the balcony where he does a lot of his work, and he'll turn the computer around and I'll get to see the Mediterranean. And like the most expensive apartment over there is like $900 a month or something. And I'm just like, gosh, these people. Yes. Yeah, his spot is unbelievable, and it's like, you couldn't get a shack in the United States for what he pays. But
I know I'm in Nashville. I don't have a view like that. I'm sure.
no, I know. Yeah, they've got it figured out. That's for sure.
Amazing. And so you guys came to market, and I believe, was it D2C native? Is that where Gratsi?
Yeah, we launched during. I had a brief stint on premise in a single format, but COVID hit and kind of wiped that plan off the map. And then we went underground and resurfaced as a D2C company. And I figured that for us to stand out, the only advantage we had in D2C was efficiency. So the bag and box is like, it's incredibly efficient to ship, and all the grocery stores were still, couldn't do tastings. So I said, what can we control the most? And it was direct to consumer. So, bag and box is a quarter of the weight, a third of the size. And we traditionally, bag and box has always been associated with, lower quality, high, very sweet, sometimes bottom shelf, grapes. And we thought it's such a great format because it stays fresh for 30 days once you open it. It's super efficient. Like it holds 4 bottles of wine. It does not look like it, the 3-liter box. But, I just keep the white and the rosé in my refrigerator. It's like having wine on tap. And, it's just such an efficient package. And we thought that if we could get higher quality stuff and not overcomplicate it, like, I think the industry tends to do, but really simplify it. Like you were in a tavern and, in Palermo and say, hey, red, white, or rosé, these are the 3 things we offer. We wanted our wines to not have all the flavoring and vanilla and oak powder, and just really, most of the wine you drink over there is not going to be barrel aged or anything. It's going to come, it's going to be fresh, dry, a little bit fruity because it's still young. And so simplified the offerings, put it in the bag and box, made sure we had high quality producers, and just try to simplify it for the customer. So we launched in D2C and positioned it as a subscription business. Really, the whole thesis was if we can convince people that are paying $20 a bottle to swap to the box, they're getting twice the wine. You're getting four bottles of wine for $40 as opposed to 80. And in our opinion, a lot of times the wine is a little higher quality. So we weren't trying to steal bag and box customers. We were trying to convert the $20 bottle customer into this new format. And that seems to be what kind of hit a chord when people do the math and they realize they don't have to worry about oxidation. It's super efficient, fits in the fridge. And that we really got the ball steamrolling on the e-com side.
Got it. And
for a year or two.
The great point on the oxidation part, even like someone who does buy 20, if I open a bottle of wine and I'm by myself and I don't want to finish a bottle of wine, the next day is going to be significantly worse, even if I pump it and do it.
Yeah, it's we found too, and especially me who really just drinks from boxes now, you develop a sensitivity to oxidation because you're not used to it. So when you do encounter it, it's much more intense than, previously before you were a box wine drinker. So yeah, it's not an issue with the box, which is great. Some people, if it takes them a few months to drink once they open, then it might be an issue, but I don't have that problem and our customers don't really. either. But
So that, and so you guys, I believe, scaled from about 2,000 to 20 to 75 to 175,000 cases. Can you talk a bit about was the biggest logistical challenge that you had keeping up with scale as well as just meeting that demand?
yeah, it was nice because when you bake in subscription, you have some stability, and we could see the growth rates and the retention rates. So, because we're dealing with a product that does have a shelf life versus a bottle of wine, which if it's stored in the right temperature, it's fine for a long time. Whites and rosés you don't want to age really, but so the subscription created some stability, and then we launched. I was nervous about wholesale just because I didn't understand it. I don't come from the booze space, and it's it's a totally different competency in my opinion than selling online because you have a split second to convince. So what we did was we would try to. There's a lot of things. I mean, it was really feet on the ground. We just I've gotten really lucky with people that we brought on the team over time, and we found a really talented guy in New York who was referred to me that, picked up on what we were doing immediately. And we kind of ran the wholesale side almost like a startup. And it was a very small team in a very small footprint in Connecticut. And we just hyper focused on in-store learnings, tastings, getting feedback. And we had a ton of pushback from retailers because they're like, we're not going to take on a $40 box of wine. Wine is already struggling in the first place. So, we convinced some folks to bring us in, and we said, well, you bring it in, we'll sell it, and we'll prove to you that people will come back and buy it. And Noah did such an incredible job with launch and just starting very small. And then we expanded out, got a good distributor. And then, now we're the number one product with our distributor in Connecticut and expanding into multiple other states. But it has turned into a high velocity product. And now the e-com and wholesale business is symbiotic. So the wholesale team and Achilles with our digital marketing team have done a fantastic job of pushing people to the stores that are subscribers that want, to pick up a box here and there, or would even prefer to have it at their local place where they go, a few days a week anyway. So we don't have to deal with soft launches anymore, which is great because we've developed a lot of internal capabilities of getting the market ready and letting us know what stores they want it in, what stores they shop in. So as soon as it hits the shelf, it's already sold, which makes the distributors happy, the store owners happy. But it's been a huge learning curve, and wholesale definitely was. If we didn't get so lucky with the right hire there, I could see it getting lost in the mix, and we could lose hope that it would work in wholesale because it is so different than selling online. So again, just really lucky.
And as someone from let's say the tech side as well as D2C native, you're probably really data dependent or reliant when you're thinking about converting customer acquisition costs, LTV. You don't get much of that in the world. How have you kind of tried to reconcile that part of it? Because I know for me personally, back with my coffee days, we had a big subscription business, big D2C, but also had its own challenges. Do you treat them like businesses, or you still try to apply the same analytical figure to the wholesale?
Yeah, we're lucky. Again, it built out that team kind of with a little bit of the e-com DNA to where we're paying very close attention on a store by store basis. And then we have some programs where customers can scan their receipt and we can ship them gifts with purchases as like we've kind of transitioned our loyalty program that we have online where you get gifts with additional purchases, transition that into the retail space, which has been fantastic and a great way to have attribution and understand LTV and things like that. But ultimately, only a percentage of customers are going to do that. So, you really just have to pay attention to the store, how much it's moving. And the beauty of box wine too is you can get really good floor displays because it's a low risk display. It's a very efficient product. I mean, you can stack 10 cases in a very small space versus glass bottles, with the risk of getting knocked over and, the case is not, the cardboard not being perfectly fit. So a bottle falls off the side and things like that. So it's great for wholesale, and our wholesalers distributors and retailers absolutely love it now. They hated it early just because seemed like such a dumb idea. Even with the e-com data, they still didn't work. They just were like, it's not going to work. But, thanks to the wholesale team, they were able to and now the data is kind of obvious with the scan data and all that stuff. The product is selling really well thanks to the wholesale team.
And I believe in the markets you mentioned, very heavily independent oriented. Have you moved into chain yet, or is it still performing?
Yeah, we are doing that now. So, again, it's like this chicken egg thing where chains aren't interested until, you have data. We're in independent markets. Not a lot of them aren't scanning, but we've gotten into a lot of stores now that are scanning and reporting Nielsen data, and the data is incredible, which makes our job that much easier. So we've teed up a lot of really good distributor relationships that we're going to be announcing here, in the next month or so, going into some pretty chain heavy states with a lot of data to support. So, which is really where you see, most of the volume anyway. So I guess just, us being naive, we really took it the hard route
And it's
with independents and, non-chain markets, and they made it work there. So obviously it's a different competency too. So we've added people to the team that have dealt in chain historically that know how to do it, because I don't know how to do really any of that. So luckily we've gotten team members now, and they have the data to support the rollout into the chains to give them confidence. And then they know how to manage chains, which is, again, just kind of just lucky happenstance of bringing on the right people at the right time. Yeah. Yeah.
with that in mind, you're talking about moving to chains, and obviously boxed wine has matured quite a bit as a category since you guys have kind of
Mhm.
reoriented. What are you seeing that's kind of unique now that wasn't present when you first went to retail? So have the buying patterns changed from the actual retailers? Had the consumer behavior changed, the competitive set? Like, what have you seen happen in boxed wine in that brick and mortar space?
Yeah. So box wine really had its shining moment in COVID because people were buying in bulk and they were trying to optimize the times they went to the store. So that really, I think, kind of normalized it for people as well. But with that, there really wasn't offerings for people that wanted a little higher, a zero sugar caliber wine. So I think the market is ripe for it. And, with the 3-tier system, it's really difficult to get a quality product to a customer in glass at an affordable price. So it makes a lot of sense. And, and we've seen people pop up. That there's a company called Juliet that I think it seems like they're doing a great job. I love their packaging, and you're seeing these alternate formats in the bag and box that, I think they're a 1.5 liter and really high quality stuff. And to me, it's like it's breaking the wall for this alternative packaging. And, at the end of the day, all you really have to lean on is, consistency of your product and authenticity in the brand to protect yourself. So I would imagine you're going to continue to see, much like RTDs have taken a lot of what the canned wine space thought they were going to get from a shelf space standpoint, and they've taken a lot of beer space. I think that you're going to continue to see premium box wines enter the market that are not going to be fighting over that small segment anymore. They're just going to be given more real estate and more places to choose. Because if you walk in, like I have a Whole Foods across the street, and it's 95 glass and 5% box, but I bet if you looked at the data that the box does 40% of the sales, but they only get 5% because there's only so many people in the space. And even the ones in the store, at my store, everything's in that $17.99 to $24.99 price point. So they're all fighting over. So, our thought was, let's really create a market in between, to where we don't want people to think, it's a silly marketing term, but you don't want people to think of it as box wine. It's just wine in a box. Yeah. Wine that's packaged in a box. So, but yeah, I think you're going to continue to see the shelf space kind of the glass eaten. And I think a lot of the big producers now are even kind of writing off their really low end, glass bottles, because it's not a ton of volume anymore. And then the margin's even smaller. So we just got to be consistent with our product and continue to invest in the brand. And, that's really the only thing you can do is, be better.
And speaking of the brand, I think you guys have shown great restraint in product expansion. Do you feel tempted? I mean, you can take Gratsi and put it in your can.
Yeah.
You can move into different serving formats. Do you feel pressured or strict on things? Right? That's where you can put your emphasis, not get distracted.
Yeah. So our thing is that we don't want to inundate the customer with a bunch of different varietals. I do think if we're smart about it, there's room for SKU expansion from a use case standpoint. So smaller format does make sense to me. Figuring out what the right one is for our customer is something we're talking about internally. But, our focus is on not overwhelming the customer with options. So giving them just, like the 3 liter Coke, the 1 liter Coke, the, whatever, the 12 ounce, like it's still ultimately selling the same product, but it might be more beneficial to have it in a smaller format but we don't want to have, 10 different flavors, or I guess they're not called flavors, varietals and, reserves and all these things. But it's something we're thinking about, but I've taken it slow because I feel like nothing. Well, this has been my experience. Rarely does something just like explode. You really have to figure it out and learn how to sell it, learn how to market it. And then you start to get momentum, and then the momentum builds. Now, there are, I think, cases where you can launch something and the consumer immediately gets it and it just takes off into, $1 billion. But anything that we do, we just want to make sure that we have the right focus on it. And it's not distracting from other stuff that we're trying to do, which is 1,000 other, launching new markets, hiring, getting stores, hiring, training salespeople, those type things. So yeah, I'm not of the opinion that, whatever we do is just going to fly off the shelf just because it has our name on it. Everything, I think, takes investment. It seems. I wish it would just blow up, but it hadn't been our case.
Like really, if you're thinking of like in the box line, you're premium, but if you get the canned or other formats, who's on it? So now it starts to shift where you land and it changes. That's not like, yeah, you guys are not really disciplined. I applaud it. It's so easy to see brands, especially D2C native brands, get the LTOs constantly doing something to drive or
yeah.
I think it's a really great approach. I love it. So even with that in mind, when we're talking about some of the marketing and non-wisdom, Mediterranean lifestyle, do you see that translate into retail success as well? Or does that live more brand awareness drives conversion trial online?
What we want is for our customers, even the wholesale customers, to be engaged with us online, with the non-wisdom episodes, the recipes that we put out. We invest a lot in content that provides value, recipes, travel advice, places to go, books to read, old Italian movies to watch. So we want to have a crossover to where it's not just your digital customers and your retail customers. We want everyone, we want our retail customers to have a subscription of a few boxes and buy boxes here and read our emails and follow us on Instagram and engage with us. So making sure that it's all in one big group is really the goal of the business, and not to think of them as two separate categories of people. Ultimately, we want everyone to be able to buy online if they want and buy in the store, and both if that fits.
Do you see a correlation from online sales to retail sales? So like the markets where you are, the big market.
Yeah, I mean, what's really fun to watch, like a market like Connecticut, where we're still growing in e-commerce, but because it's somewhat mature from a wholesale standpoint, still growing, but quickly wholesale becomes 90% of sales. So even though e-com does great there and continues to grow, even with the saturation of doors, you don't see a cannibalization on either side. I'm assuming at some point, obviously there's a ceiling, but having the engaged e-commerce customers in it, like when we launched Massachusetts, we have an awesome distributor there, MS Walker, but they kind of didn't believe us, like how much the demand's going to be right away because it's a new product. But we had thousands of customers in Massachusetts that were telling us what stores they wanted it in, that they live, a block from, they wanted to go pick up. So as soon as we launched, they sold out immediately because everybody was waiting for it to get to their local wine shop. So it does have an impact, and having the e-com customers really provides the spark that, is so hard in wholesale. So it's unique that we have that. I guess it's an advantage from the existing customers.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody looking to start brands, one of the recommendations I always make, start building your audience, start building that communication network. First, it can drive demand without a push.
Absolutely. And again, you're not even guaranteed it's going to work. And it's just so, but yeah, it's the timing has been nice that we have the existing e-com customers, but clearly the upside is wholesale. I mean, it is. I was even surprised at the ratio of wholesale to e-com sales, because Connecticut did so well just in e-com alone. For it to be 80-20, 90-10, to me, it was just very promising for the potential growth of wholesale, where we're only in 5 or 6 states right now, and not super populated states either. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do on the wholesale side, but we feel like we have a good playbook now for sure, which is great. But every market's different, so you never know. I'm sure there'll be more headwinds.
You're kind of thinking about the challenges, or I mean, obviously what you built with Gratsi has been impressive, and it's been really a rapid growth experience. So you're probably encountering some different unique challenges. But going back to, let's say, the previous moving company days, you mentioned it was a grind, you wanted out of it. What are similarities or some differences now running Gratsi? I'm sure it's still a grind. I'm sure it's not all fun again, but like, are you seeing certain things from the moving days that still are the same types of challenges, just in a different format here?
I've been really fortunate. My first company was very young, didn't know a lot. And I'm sure I had, I think honestly, like obviously there's stress involved in any business, but because like I'm like our number one fan and everybody at the company is so enjoyable to work with, it's, I don't want to say night and day, but it kind of is. There was incredible people at my previous company as well. But just the business itself was so intense. And the margin for error was, it was just it was a very complex company. There was a lot of moving parts. It's a two-sided marketplace. You're dealing with, moving armoires and, flights of stairs and broken elevators. And here, we have to deal with, every now and then some people will miss their signature for their e-com delivery and they'll get upset and we'll have to fix that. But I mean, it's not like breaking an armoire that's been in the family for 400 years that, so it's night and day. I mean, obviously there's similar challenges, but yeah, my big takeaways were, try to keep everything as simple as possible. And something I'm really proud of with our team is they're very autonomous and they understand their role way better than I do. And I don't have to be like a specialist in the company, and everybody that is in charge of something, they know what they're in charge of and they know it like the back of their hand, where, I'm here for help and backup, but I have some really impressive people that own their lane like in an incredible way. So it just makes everything flow so much better versus shared responsibilities, big meetings, getting sign off for everything. So we're spreading the blame around on everybody that was complicit, where we're the total opposite, where this is what you do, you're in charge of it. And if it doesn't work or breaks, it's your fault. And, the number one rule is, be very decisive, but also be very quick to admit when something's not going the way we thought it was. And that's been something I've been very proud to watch our team do a fantastic job of.
Question that kind of piggybacking off of that, looking back at either yourself when you're starting your first company or Gratsi or somebody else coming into this space, it sounds like you found a much better balance of being an entrepreneur in this new way. What's a piece of advice you give to somebody that's just starting out that you wish you would have known maybe back in that early days?
I'm going to misquote the poster or something, but I saw something online where it said like, obviously if we knew it was this hard, we wouldn't have started it kind of thing. Where I think because you're so excited about it that you assume that it's just going to like be this like massive overnight success. And we've been at it for years and we've seen a lot of growth. But again, I do think there's situations like a Instagram or something that they're like 2 years in and they have like 12 employees and they sell for $3 billion. But I think ultimately like going into anything, you need to be thinking in like a decade term, and if you get to sell it before that, that's great, or, whatever. But if you're not thinking in 10-year increments, I think you're going to create some serious anxiety and expectations that are going to let you down when in reality you are making progress. It's just not on some unrealistic timetable that you set for yourself early. And if you do get a quick win, great. But, it's like a decade. I mean, if you don't think about it in a 10-year and even potentially longer than that. So if you don't think about it like that, then you're consistently going to be kind of let down and stressed out. So if you're going to jump in, it's going to, most of the time, if it works, then it's going to take a lot longer than you thought, in my experience. And again, people could have alternate experiences, but that has been mine, where I think in the beginning of our business, we thought we were going to go from, $1 million to 100 million in 3 years. And that created a lot of anxiety and then blaming. And now it's like, I got into it thinking, hey, this is going to take a minute and we're going to have fun doing it and build it the right way and, have a bit more of a long-term mindset. So,
Well, I mean, that's like similar to you as my early 20s when I first got. You just don't have that mentality yet. Everything's fast and you become now. You go, okay, it's going to be tough. There'll be months, years that are difficult, but over time, going, and you're not expecting days every day. It's like, okay, it was a day. It was just
yeah. I mean, if you're just, all you can do is make progress and get a little bit better, but yeah, I think also when you're in your early 20s, like when you say 6 months, it sounds like 3 years to me. 6 months to me now sounds, it's going to go by like that, where in your 20s, everything is so fast paced. But yeah, and make sure you're working on something that you want to work on, that you're you're still going to have fun working on 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Because,
Ron, just cool. I think you've done a great job at Gratsi, probably figuring out how to build a team versus just trying to backfill things that you're already doing. So
yeah.
Seeing that positive, you get to choose who you work with in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And luckily we have a fantastic team, which just makes everything, so much more fun is when you get, you're excited to do, get a phone call or hop on a video call.
Awesome.
Makes it all worth it.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Is there anything about Gratsi coming up that
we've got some exciting things in the works, but they'll all be, there's some, we've got a lot of fun stuff happening this year. So just stay tuned.
Good. Keep up with Gratsi on their website, social media, always fun stuff, a great product. Stephen, thanks again for being here today. Everyone that listened, I appreciate your time. If you have any interest in finding more out about Shop with Eileen, come visit us at shopwitheileen.com. We'll set up a first demo for you for free, get you eyes and we'll set up the first demo for you for free. We'll get you eyes and visibility on the shelf. And as always, know thy shelf.